everyone, how you doing? I've not put much out the last couple of days. I've just been doing a decorating job, and it's so boring I don't even want to film it. It's literally just painting a hall stairs and landing. It's the old sort of Anna Glimpse wallpaper, old stippled Artex ceiling. It's just white and green. It's not worth even taking a photo, you know. So, but I did get a comment about a couple of you mentioned that you like hearing old stories about old work colleagues and things like that. And sometimes a chat is better than showing you an actual job, you know. It's still engaging, it's still content for YouTube. And sometimes listening to a story is just as interesting as watching an interesting job. So I thought I'd share a story of someone that I worked with. This was back in early 2000s. I worked for a property maintenance company. We used to do a lot of commercial work. Most of it was railways, actually. Good work. We never did no track work. It wasn't fixing railway tracks, but if there was a blocked toilet or there was, some ceiling come down, broken lock. So you was doing lots of everything. Learned a lot on that company actually, because you get sent out to emergencies, and there'd be a lock broken on the just the station door or something like that, and you're sent out there. And obviously, it's not a lot of these locks are not the sort of locks you just go down the shop and pick up. They're all proper railway sort of locks, with proper keys like fire brigade keys, FB1, FB2, all that sort of thing. So it was a really good firm to work on, lots of variation, and you could literally be all over the country. We would literally go from the lines we used to do. So we'd go from King's Cross up to King's Lynn, which was a big distance if you know that part of the world. It's like was from central London up to the top of Norfolk really. And it could, like I say, it could be literally something like a blocked toilet. So I was based in, not far from where I am now, but it was on the North London Essex borders. So you could get sent all the way to King's Lynn train station to plunge a toilet, which was a great job because you're not going to get much after that. The chances of you being called back down to London for another job after that was rare. So there might be something on another station as you bounce down. I think the next station down was like down the Market, and so you'd hope and pray that there was another one there. But if not, you still got your money. It doesn't matter. You'd sit about on what they used to call standby. They'd say, "Well, on standby, we'll call you if something comes in." And a lot of the time, nothing would come in, and you just had a chance, and you'd go home. But you'd still get a full day's money for unblocking the toilet. But you'd have to elaborate that. They wanted the paperwork a little bit more, so they could earn out of it. So you wouldn't just plunge the toilet 2 or 3 times until the blockage cleared. You would say, found toilet to be blocked, check manhole covers, 2, 3, 4 manhole covers back down the platform until I reached the blockage and all that sort of lot. That way the firm could obviously make money out of you basically doing nothing for the day. So that was a really, really good firm to work on. Unfortunately, what happened there was that particular firm, it got sold. I think the boss of that firm, he went for a loan to the Bank of Boston, and they bought the firm. They saw the figures and said we'd be interested in buying the firm. So he sold it to the Bank of Boston. Bank of Boston took it over. Meant no difference to us. We were just the workers. But then the Bank of Boston decided it wasn't a viable project and dissolved the firm, literally, as quick as that. So we were all working, and I'll never forget, it was a Friday afternoon, and we was all working, and mobile phones were still sort of in their infancy back then. You couldn't sort of text or WhatsApp, but you could call each other. And there was about 50 of us working on that firm, and it wasn't a big firm, so we was pretty close really. We used to communicate a lot. It was like a real sort of band of brothers. And one Friday afternoon we was all working, and this phone call went about, and it said the firm's been shut down. The receivers have walked in and changed the locks, kicked everyone out of the office, and we're still working. We're like idiots. I'll never forget what we was doing. We was working in East London, and we was doing the railway arches, you know, like the old arches of the railway you used to see on EastEnders where Phil Mitchell works and that. Not that I'm a fan of EastEnders, I fucking hate it. But anyway, that sort of affair, we was making them sort of pretty. We was putting cladding inside them, all like white cladding, so they could be used for like a bit more of a better thing than a car repair shop, you know. Normal firms would go in there, you know, hairdressers, salons, whatever, we're just making them nice. So we were all working, not knowing that our firm had been shut down. It was about 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and just by luck, one of the blokes I was working with, he was going out with one of the girls from the office. So she rang him up crying, and then suddenly it's like, what? There's no firm left, we're all fucking working, we've got jobs to do. So that went round. So the first thing we did, we'd all sort of realised that we weren't going to get any money out of this. We were going to be the bottom of the food chain to get paid. We used to get paid fortnightly. And if we were due a payment, it was like, I think it was coming to the end of that fortnight. So we were all thinking, we ain't going to get no money. So loads of us, wrong really, but we went to all the hire shops, because we used to have accounts for shops. And we hired out Kangos and drills and scaffold towers, and we just raided the hire shops because we knew that this was going to be our months really. And I ended up, I won't say nicking, sounds wrong really, but I ended up hiring, so I'd always wanted, which at the time was a big Bosch cordless SDS drill, and I hired one of them, which obviously never went back. Yeah, it was a good drill that was, I loved that drill. So anyway, that's all I got. I was a bit of a bold job. Some blokes went crazy. They were absolutely going crazy. Just hiring ridiculous things, really. But anyway, I digress. I shall now go back to the story of the character that I met that worked on that firm. I won't say his real name. I doubt very much he'd ever see this. I don't even know if he's still about. So, for the purposes of this story, we'll call him Tony. He had 4 letters in his name, and the last one was a Y. But it wasn't Tony, but we'll call him Tony for the purposes of this story. Now, my first encounter with Tony, right? You think I'm lying. When I tell you about this bloke, you're going to think I'm exaggerating. And I swear to God, I know our stories can get embellished over time and little bits get put on for comic effect. I'm going to tell you this as it happened. Right? There's a few little things about him. But the first time I met Tony, I was on a job and I was plastering a little bathroom ceiling, and he was took on the firm as an electrician. That's what his job was, electrician. So I don't know Tony's turning up to my job. I've never met the bloke before. So I'm in upstairs at this place, wherever it was. I'm plastering the ceiling. I've heard this bloke come in, and he used to speak a bit like this, you know, like his T's but D's, like, hi, what are you doing? Hi guys, what are you doing? He spoke a bit like that. And he said, hi, I'm Tony. I said, oh, you must be the new electrician. And he went, electrician, plumber, carpenter, and he went through this list of trades. And instantly, I'm quite, obviously, you know, we all are, quite perceptive of these people, and I thought, oh fuck, what's this geezer all about? And he looked at my Hawk and Trowel and he went, give us that here. Remember, I've never met this bloke before, a bit older than me. He went, give us that here. So I handed him a Hawk and Trowel. I'm thinking I've just met Superman here. He went to put a bit of plaster on this ceiling, and the biggest fucking lump of plaster landed in his eye, right? And with that, he shoved his Hawk and Trowel back into my hands. He's like, oh! And he had to run off and sort his eye out. And if any plasterers are watching this, you get a bit of plaster in your eye, especially like a whole eyeful, you're in trouble. You know that. So that's what happens to Tony. Anyway, I finished off the ceiling, a little bit sort of like, what's gone on? Like, confused by it all. So that went on with that job, and I think I probably finished the ceiling, left him to it. So that was my first indication Now, over the course of working with Tony, he started, especially when there was a few of you about, he really enjoyed telling stories. Now, apparently, he was in the army, right? And one of the blokes we used to work with, he was ex-army, and he had a tattoo. I'm not sure, I'm not very good at that sort of like, excuse me if you're ex-forces, because I don't want to sound ignorant, but I think he was something to do with the RAF or something, this bloke I work with. It might have even been the bloody, what's not the real army, like CA or air cadet, something like that. But he had a tattoo, which obviously if you was in the forces, everyone would know exactly what that tattoo means. It's a badge, I suppose. Anyway, Tony's seen this geezer, and he's gone. This is his first introduction to this geezer, and he's gone, "Hi, airborne, I like you," right? So my mate's gone, "Oh, right, oh yeah, was you?" Yeah, I was in there. My mate's sort of twigged that this geezer's probably a bullshitter. So he started saying names. "Oh, did you know, I don't know, same old. Did you know Joe Bloggs? Do you remember old Jim Bloggs?" Yeah, great guy. It turns out my mate was making these names up, and these blokes didn't even exist. So straight away we knew Tony was a bullshitter in the highest degree. I mean, what a thing to lie about. If you're gonna lie, people that lie about that they was in any sort of forces are just deluding anyway. But over time, Tony told us a few stories. Now apparently, if you was on the battlefield with Tony, he was so experienced, he could take your leg off from the hip down and you'd survive. That's what he used to say. To about half a dozen of us all worked together. Believed his own bullshit, incredibly. We was young, but I suppose we was probably in our early to mid-20s then. And he was probably in his mid-30s. So he already feels like he's got that jump on us where, you know, we're just young, we're not experienced. So we're the perfect audience for someone like that. He thinks he's fooling us all. So you can take your leg off from the hip downwards. He also knocked out Nigel Benn's brother in the nightclub. I don't even know if Nigel Benn's got a brother, but he did that. He knew the Wimbledon players when Wimbledon were the crazy gang, the Vinnie Jones days. He knew all them apparently. Don't know how, but he knew them. And he went to watch him at a game, and he didn't have a tie on, and they was going into the box or the VIP area, but it wasn't allowed him without a tie. So Tony had been stopped. "Sorry mate, you can't go without a tie." So he said he waited near where the football players would come out of the tunnel, and as they were running out, he saw Dennis Wise, who was one of his friends, and through the thing he shouted out, and I'm not embellishing this at all, he shouted out, "Hey Wisey, give us your tie, I can't get in." He said with that, Dennis Wise, just about to run out on the pitch and play a game of football, went back into the changing room, gave Tony his tie. It was all good. Success story for Tony. What else did he do? I can top that. Right? A friend of his was involved in setting up the American football when it came to Twickenham. Did Twickenham host American football? See, I don't even know about these stories if they're true. There's probably a bit of truth. Twickenham were hosting American football games, and he was there with his mate, and his mate was in charge of satellite reception or something like that, and they were trying to get a live link to Asia apparently, and his mate couldn't do it. His mate that was very, very experienced in all this couldn't get the satellite link to work on a big screen. So he said to his mate, "Give us that screwdriver here." And these are his words. "Within 10 minutes I had a live link to Tokyo." Right? What a fucking bullshit. by this time, when we used to listen to his stories, we'd sort of egg him on. We'd go, bloody hell, how'd you do that? You know, like, oh really? We'd really egg him on, and he would fuel from it. Incredible bloke. Some of the things, honestly. We was on a job once. Two school teachers, giving up their school jobs, or they'd retired. Two really lovely women, and they was opening up like a shop with all sort of knickknacks. You know, probably I think it was all like smellies and crystals, all that sort of lot, really. And they were really lovely women, and our firm was there to sort of put the shop together for them and that. Anyway, they'd sent Tony down to do some work. Now Tony has got this woman believing that he can do anything for her. He's going, yeah, what we can do is this, we can do that, we can do that. And I'll never forget this woman. She came up to me, she went, isn't Tony wonderful? He's so wonderful, isn't he? And I just sort of looked and went, yeah, he's really good, isn't he? Anyway, their opening date never materialised because Tony promised all this stuff to be done. So they were holding back. They put like an opening date out at the front of the shop, and they're all excited. Bless them, you know. They've put a lot of it all the investment, probably a lot of their savings into the shop, and he just disappeared off the scene. So the shop never opened on that date. I think it was quite a while after it actually opened, and the school teachers ended up taking the company to court because of Tony. Incredible bloke. We once was working on a job together, and he had a firm's van like we all did. But Tony had said to me he'd souped it up a bit. He'd done something to it, something boring, and we had to go to electrical wholesalers to go and get something. And this was in Stevenage, quite big, wide road in Stevenage. So we went down to the wholesalers, and he floored this van. He was screeching it round corners to try and prove to me that he'd souped it up a bit. I'm not no mechanic, but I just knew he was just driving it fast. It wasn't souped up. He was just fucking driving like an idiot. And when we got to electrical wholesalers, we went in there, and these blokes in these wholesalers went, oh, what's that smell? What's that smell? It burnt the clutch almost out. The van was screaming, and you could smell the clutch because we parked outside the shop. The smell had filled the whole shop, basically. And anyway, Tony had given it the old bollocks. He'd souped up the van, lots of old rubbish. And we was in that shop together, and he'd been giving it all the bollocks over the counter. I was standing there like wanting the ground to swallow me up, just like, just shut up, get out of here, because he's going on and on. And the two blokes behind the counter, you can see that they're thinking, this geezer ain't for real, is he? And as we left the shop, like he got all the bits, you know, they said thank you, whatever. And instead of just saying thanks to them, he stopped, he turned around to him and he went, appreciate, right? And then I looked round at the two blokes and their faces were like, and I just sort of like rolled my eyes, like, just to say, don't worry, mate. I'm sure I'll think of more, but that's all that can come to mind at the minute about Tony. He always used to wear a baseball cap. You never saw him without his baseball cap, and he had sort of like hair growing out from under it. The rumour was that he was as bald as a coot underneath that baseball cap. And I never witnessed this, but on one of these train platforms, which do get very windy train platforms, apparently one of my mates said that the cap blew off. And indeed, yeah, he was like the full bald egg with a load of hair, what he used to sort of like a disguise that he used to sort of under that. Absolutely brilliant. I wish I'd seen that. Come on, kids. Yeah, I wish I'd seen that. I really do. Funny stories. You do meet them along the way. You really do. Met plenty of funny people like that, but he really sticks out more than anyone in my mind. Tony. I wish I could get the old gang back together now and just have a little natter about it. Should do a podcast really, characters at work, and get people in to talk about their most memorable characters that they've ever worked with. I think we could all relate to that. But anyway, that's my little story for a little drive home. It's Saturday afternoon, what's the time? It's about 1:30. I was just in that little job doing some decorating because I'm only there tomorrow. Just trying to get that done in 4 days, that job. And start plastering again on Tuesday. But now a nice bit of outside work to start on Tuesday. Long may the weather continue. So yeah, I just thought I'd say a load of nonsense stories, chuck them out there, just to let you know I'm all still here. And next time I see you, I will be showing you the outside job, which is a little bit of a silicon rendering. Nice little job, I think, when he looks at it from below. Such an idiot, I've never got up there and tapped it yet. I know there's parts of it falling off, so I'm sure I'll have to take some of it back to the brickwork at least. Anyway, I'll see you all then. Appreciate it.